Right there, my
Well, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Austin Parrish, and on behalf of the law school, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this event, and particularly to welcome Colleens Family, her husband Jerry, and their children and extended family to the law school. I'd like to thank you all for being here to remember Colleen. She's had such a tremendous impact on the law library, on our law school, on our graduates, and our alumni as a whole. And so this is a special event and something that's important to us. I have to say, I feel bad. I never had the pleasure to meet Colleen. I arrived here only in January. But I have to say, she's somebody who left her mark. She's one of the few people that I consistently hear her name brought up in so many different contexts. It's clear that her memory is never going to be forgotten. And I think that's important. I think a law school is made up of the people. And we are known as a school that has a tremendous community. And Colleen is one of those people that reflected the very best of what we had to offer. Not only as a faculty and a staff, but as a graduate of the school. And so I think it's incredibly important that we recognize her in this particular way. I wanted to give some of you who may not know her as well a little bit of background. Colleeen Pauwels was born in Chicago and spent her childhood in Indiana, first in Washington and then in South Bend. She received her undergraduate degree in 1968 and then moved to Bloomington in 1971 to join her husband Jerry while he attended graduate school. Colleen was first hired in the government's documents department here at the University Library, an experience which convinced her to pursue a career in library sciences. She completed a master's in library sciences in 1975, and then she accepted her appointment as a public services librarian at the law library. 3 years later, she was named as the library's acting director, supposedly on a short-term appointment. No. But then she became the permanent director in 1983, and she served in that capacity until her retirement in 2011. Colleen had that entrepreneurial spirit that so many of our graduates did, or so many of our graduates do, and so it was no surprise that she began taking courses, completing her JD at Indiana University in 1986, just 3 years after starting classes while continuing to work full-time. And her leadership during her time as a director of the library was transformative. She transformed a facility that at the time was struggling to meet the basic needs of faculty and students to a nationally recognized legal research facility. She hired the highest qualified staff, grew the collection in size and strength, and believed that the most important thing for the library was to provide top-notch service, traditions that continue today. She and her staff delivered on her strong belief that she had to make a difference. Colleen also left a legacy far beyond the library in her teaching and her research. She recognized early on the need to mentor new generations of librarians. She established a legal bibliography and law library administration course through the School of Library and Information Science that had been taught now for more than 30 years. Her research focused on the school's history, and particularly on early women lawyers in Indiana. If it had not been for Colleen's dedication and energy to preserve the school's history, I think a lot of our oral history would have been lost. She left, another example, she left a personal indelible mark on the law school community with her idea to create scrapbooks for retiring faculty, that a tradition that has endured and has allowed our law school to honor our members in unique and loving ways. Her research focusing on women's early lawyers led the school to induct its alumna, Patricia McNagny, a graduate in 1951, into the Academy of Law Alumni Fellows this year. And it had not been for Colleen's research, neither the school nor Ms. McNagny's daughters would have been fully informed of her professional interests and accomplishments in the way that they've done. Shortly before her death, Colleen herself was inducted into the Academy of Law Alumni Fellows, which is the highest honor that this law school can bestow on any of its graduates. The award recognized not only her many years of dedicated service to the school, but her tremendous accomplishments as the head of this librarian. She's somebody that I wish I had met. She's somebody that I know we all miss dearly. I would now like to introduce somebody that knows her much better than I did, and that's Linda Ferris. Linda is a faculty member of our school. She succeeded Colleen as the director of the law library. She's not only been a long-term colleague of Colleen, but also a very close friend. And so I'll turn it over to Linda. Excellent.
I'm standing here today as director of the law library because of Colleen Pauwels. I came to work here in 1976 I was not looking for a career as a librarian. I just wanted a job while my husband was in graduate school. At this time, Colleen was the public services librarian, and I was hired as a circulation supervisor, working under her direction. We hit it off right away. Our work styles and personalities meshed well. Neither of us had any idea in 1976 that we would work together for 35 years. Up until this time, I had never aspired to be a librarian, let alone a law librarian. But watching the work that Colleen was doing inspired me. I could see that she was really making a difference for the faculty and students at the law school. I could also see that this was a community where everyone worked together for a common goal. Colleen embraced her work at the law library, whatever the task. She was creative and hardworking and always fun to be around. I quickly came to love the law library and the law school. Those of you who knew Colleen well know that when she believed in somebody, she embraced them completely and always pushed them to excel. I was lucky enough to be one of those people. She encouraged me to further my education excuse me, and pursue a career in law librarianship. She became my mentor. As the years passed by, she also became my closest and dearest friend. We shared not only love for the work we were doing, but our families came to know each other as well, and we shared the ups and downs that all families experience. I can tell you with assurance that when Colleen became the acting director in 1978, she never anticipated becoming a permanent director. But it was not in Colleen's DNA to just sit back and mark time until somebody else came along to take over. And believe me, the law library that you see today is not the library that Colleen inherited in 1978. The law library in 1978 was out of space, short-staffed, and underfunded. But instead of waiting for a new director, she began to move the library forward, working with Dean Plager, then law school dean, to improve the library finances and start the road to building the outstanding collection, staff, and services that we have today. By the time 1983 rolled around, and 2 extensive searches for a director had been completed, it was clear to everybody that the permanent director could only be Colleen Pauwels, and that's when she was appointed as permanent director. And this is when things began to happen in earnest for the library. Funding was received to build an addition to the law school and to renovate the existing space. The addition was for the law library, and Colleen was instrumental in working with the building committee and the architects to design a library that was not only beautiful but functional. If you look around this beautiful facility today, you will see her influence everywhere. During her tenure as director, the law library also increased and strengthened its collection, improved the number and quality of the staff, and added substantially to the services provided. When Colleen became the director in 1978, the law library had a book budget of $190,000, a staff of 8, and a collection of approximately 170,000 volumes. At the time of her retirement in 2011, the book budget was $1.6 million, the staff numbered 19, and the collection exceeded 750,000 volumes. But these are numbers, just numbers. They're important numbers, but they don't tell the whole story of her impact. Colleen believed that the real test of whether the library was fulfilling its mission was in the services it provided, always remembering that we are here for the law school faculty and students. What Colleen left for us in the law library is a legacy of excellence and a dedication to service. And that's what we strive to continue every day. When you work with somebody for 35 years, you have a million stories to tell. But let me close with one story that I think epitomizes Colleen. We have a tradition in the law library where we celebrate each staff member's birthday with a cake or occasionally donuts. For some reason, started by Colleen, I'm sure, it falls to the director to ask the birthday celebrant what age they are. And Colleen dutifully carried this out with every birthday celebration. When the person revealed their age, no matter what the age, Colleen would always think about it for a minute, and then she would say, "That was a great year." It came to be a joke in the library, but at the heart of it was a great truth. Colleen enjoyed every year because she spent it with a family she loved, a staff she loved, a library and a law school she loved, So for me today is a great day of celebration of Colleen's life and work, and I know that you will be pleased. Thank you. Okay, to come to the podium. Ah, there you are. Beth has graciously agreed to come and speak on behalf of herself and Fred Kay. Fred and Beth are friends of Powell's family and also colleagues of Colleens.
Fairly short. Fred, of course, wishes he could be here in person to honor and celebrate Colleen. Unfortunately, he is traveling abroad this week, so I will do my best to be his voice. And if it helps you all to have a visual cue to imagine him standing here, I brought one. It's actually so I can have something to hold just in case I start. Remembering Colleen Pauwels. Colleen Pauwels was a formidable woman. This was evident in every facet of her life, but time permits me to mention only a few. She was a formidable steward of the law library, where she was known for her unyielding commitment to the highest standards of service and innovation. One of my earliest experiences here, I'm Fred, like that of every faculty member of my generation, was a visit from Colleen asking about research areas and how the library could provide support. That commitment to service remains one of Colleen's enduring legacies. Colleen demonstrated a formidable meticulousness in everything she did, from researching the history of the law school to selecting chairs for the reading room. This was not a woman who selected chairs from a catalog or the limited display in a showroom. I will always remember walking into the library's administrative offices, where a bewildering array of candidate chairs was auditioning for Colleen and Linda. Colleen was relentless in her commitment to the central role of the library in the law school's mission and community. This may explain why the law library is not merely the location, but the host of the annual graduation party for third years and their families, and still remains not only the most beautiful library on the campus, but the only one that accepts pizza deliveries. If the library was going to be home to hundreds of students, it was going to be the best home possible. Perhaps the most visible evidence of Colleen's formidable nature is the law school building itself. She oversaw repeated renovations of the building for 3 decades, and its beautiful features are due in no small measure to Colleen. She never took no for an answer. When the university architect's office said that our wood floors could not be resanded and leveled, she found a craftsman to complete the job. In fact, her tenacity about the floors almost got her arrested. Unsatisfied with the 1 square foot samples the designers of the downstairs porch floor were offering her, she and Linda insisted on visiting sites where similar floor designs were actually in use, including Circle Center Mall in Indianapolis, where we now know it is illegal to photograph the fixtures. Colleen could not stand to see the building defaced in any way. Together with then Dean of Alumni and Development Art Lots, she would walk through the building, removing posters that had been taped to the woodwork without ever breaking stride. She would never have tolerated the 3 frames Velcro to the elevator wall, and certainly would not have allowed them to be hung unevenly. She was equally formidable in every task I ever saw her undertake. Nothing was done halfway. When the law school was unable to find early female graduates to be named Law Alumni Academy Fellows, she undertook exhaustive research to identify female graduates of exceptional distinction from both the distant and recent past, and she lobbied effectively for their election. She managed every detail of the evocative portraits of retiring faculty that line our classroom walls, and she worked with the dean to ensure that each retiring colleague received a gift carefully chosen to reflect that person's interests and tastes. Colleen was uncompromising in eschewing the limelight. Together with Linda, she proudly led the law library to receive national awards, but she never sought recognition for herself. She brought similar distinction to the many other organizations she served, including her church and the Bloomington Playwrights Project, but she never claimed credit. Colleen brought her high standards to play as well as to work, from the practical jokes she cooked up with the library staff to Halloween costumes of rare complexity and ingenuity. The year she came to our house dressed as a stall shower remains the stuff of legend. Yet in no arena was Colleen more formidable than in her relationships. She was a remarkable, tenaciously loyal friend and enjoyed an exceptional partnership with Linda Ferris. No one was more delighted when Linda succeeded her as director of the law library than Colleen. Colleen adored her family, and while I suspect she imposed equally high standards at home, I bet Matt and Erin did not take posters to the woodwork there. She was never more proud than when talking about her children's exploits, what her brothers were up to, and most especially Jerry's newest production. Colleen was among my closest friends, and not only because she endured thousands of photographs of zoo animals without complaint, which even Beth wouldn't do. You might get some feel for both my regard for Colleen and the type of person she was by the fact that when I needed to hire an administrative director for the Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, I asked Colleen to take on the responsibility. After endless rounds of resume reviews and interviews that she conducted in an exemplary style, Colleen invited me to meet 2 candidates and then told me which one to hire. Which of course I did, a decision I have never regretted. Colleen always made Beth and me feel part of her family. In Beth's case, I understood because when I first introduced Beth to Colleen, Beth remarked that the law library was more beautiful than the one where she attended law school. Colleen had only one question: where did you go to law school? When Beth replied Harvard, Colleen just grinned. Today's ceremony honoring Colleen could not be more deserved. No one individual in our lifetimes has done more for this law library or this law school than Colleen Pauwels. She is most certainly here in spirit, but were she here in the flesh, while she would be embarrassed by the attention, I have to believe she would be proud in her own formidable way. And I was supposed to say,
And here's Jerry.
Here's Jerry.
Well, this is very difficult to, a couple of difficult acts to follow. On behalf of the family, I would like to thank Indiana University and the Maurer School of Law for honoring Colleen with this dedication. In particular, I want to thank Linda Ferris and Hannah Buxbaum, who's then the acting dean, for sponsoring the petition initially and presenting it to the law faculty and to the university at large. I would like to thank Lisa Hosey from the Development Department for her tireless work in putting the pieces together, coordinating with the IU Foundation, and making sure that I signed all the papers in the right places. I would also like to thank Lisa and everyone at the law school involved with coordinating all of the logistics to bring this ceremony and make today's ceremony possible. Of course, I want to thank Dean Parrish, Linda Ferris, Beth, and Fred, Kate, for their kind remark, regarding Colleen's long service and benefits to the school. But finally, I want to thank all of you for taking the time from your lives to be here today to make this commemoration complete. If Colleen were here, she would be, as Beth noted, she'd be very uncomfortable about being the center of attention, but she would be deeply pleased to see all of your faces. Excuse me. I thought this was going to be possible. I believe that the key to Colleen's success, both as an administrator and as a person, was that she embodied the best qualities of the 3 people who had the greatest impact on her development: her parents, Frank and Alice Kristl, and Frank's mother, Maude Kristl. Each contributed genetically and by living example, qualities that became distinct facets of Colleen's personality. Colleen's grandmother, Maude Kristl, was the unchanging and seemingly eternal matriarch of the Kristl family. She lost her mother when she was 13, and within 2 years, she and her 2 brothers were essentially abandoned by their father. But Maude never let circumstances or the actions of others determine the course of her life. She held the family together. She found a place for them to live. She and her older brother convinced authorities that their younger brother belonged with them, not in an orphanage. Maude lived until she was 97 driving her own car, voting in every election, living by herself well into her 90s. She was uncomplicated, unassuming, and indomitable, a persistent model of self-reliance and determination. Like her grandmother, Colleen radiated an air of permanence and constancy, the aura of someone who could be counted on and one who had to be contended with. Colleen was not easily swayed by the opinions of others. She analyzed every situation, every question for herself, and when she felt she was right, and she generally was, Colleen could be very outspoken and tenacious in the defense of her convictions, or in the defense of any of the people lucky enough to fall within the sphere of her concern. I don't think anyone was ever in doubt about where they stood with Colleen, or where Colleen stood on any given issue. Colleen's mother, Alice Kristl, was born in Omaha, Nebraska. Alice was 100% Irish American, as you might have guessed from the names of the children, Timothy, Colleen, and Kevin. I don't think Colleen's father got a vote. From her mother, Colleen got her beautiful Irish eyes. Her boundless enthusiasm and positive thinking, her commitment to education, and her love of a good party. Like her mother, Colleen never let a holiday or a personal event slip past without being properly celebrated. She was not just a protector, but as Linda pointed out, she was a creator of traditions. And at work, this meant establishing Wednesday afternoon popcorn breaks and setting standards and decorum for birthday celebrations, and creating elaborate graduation displays every spring for the graduating seniors. And for truly big events within the staff, such as weddings or birth announcements, nothing would do but a full-scale, spouses included party in her own living room. The point, of course, was not just to have a good time. Like her mother, Colleen instinctively realized that laughter builds relationships, and celebrating relationships builds cohesive families, effective teams, vibrant communities. Colleen's father, Frank Kristl, was a natural athlete, a popular kid with an easy laugh who became a high school star athlete. He competed in all sports and excelled in track. Frank set a state record in the long jump in 1934-35, which stood for over 30 years. But at this point in his life, luck was replaced by determination as the controlling force in his life. Rather than that being the high point of his life, Frank parlayed that athletic ability into an otherwise unattainable degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Pittsburgh. And seeking adventure, he applied and got a job at the Department of the Navy, which brought him to Washington, D.C., which is where he met fellow adventurer Alice Weir. The two of them coming together in those heady times immediately before World War II. They were married within 1 year of their first date. But when the outbreak of World War II, Frank, instead of trying to get a deferment based on his employment at the Navy Department, joined the Navy, volunteered for hazardous duty aboard submarines. He served as the engineering officer aboard 2 boats, one of which, the Flasher, was the most successful submarine in the Pacific Fleet. Frank was awarded the Bronze Star for his service. From her father, Colleen got her competitive spirit, her sense of service, her fierce loyalty, her uncanny ability to assess people, and the conviction that no task was complete if it wasn't done well. Good enough was never good enough for Colleen. Well, these are the basic qualities which Colleen applied to every aspect of her life and every aspect of her position with the law school. She is perhaps most widely acknowledged for her service on the building committee, for the zeal with which she pored over blueprints and punch lists, challenging assumptions of contractors and architects, and discovering oversights they had made. There's no doubt that she did come alive whenever a new building project was proposed. At times I thought she got a contact high from touching pictures. But Colleen also valued 2 other committees' assignments. the admissions committee, and the nominating committee for the Academy of Law Alumni Fellows. Colleen viewed these tasks as building projects as well. Each year, she spent years going over admissions files, looking for diamonds in the rough, applicants whose less than stellar test scores might be offset by exceptional initiative or perseverance or some other quality that Colleen knew would be as valuable in the law school and in the profession of law as past academic achievement. She looked for those worthy applicants that might lose the opportunity to attend law school, to fulfill their dreams, unless they won the support of someone on the committee who looked closely enough to see the sign of their potential. Well, similarly with the Academy, Colleen used her access to the school records. Please excuse me. She used her access to the school records to identify candidates whose achievements were perhaps lost to time, or whose contributions had been made in less visible career paths. Colleen would often support such candidates to round out the Academy, to make it truly representative of the diverse spectrum of the school's alumni. And for any of you faculty members who served on these committees with Colleen, who faced her when she was bringing forward her candidates, in case you were wondering, she did keep score. I never knew about who the individual candidates were, rarely knew any details about them, and certainly never heard any details of the meeting. But after each one of these meetings every year, I would get a box score. I brought in 3 candidates, I got 2 of them in. And she would follow the careers of those students that she got into school, that she felt that she was instrumental in their being accepted. Her interest was not just in keeping score for herself. The achievement in which Colleen took the most pride was also a building project of sorts, an ongoing project that she and Linda worked at steadily over the years. The assembly and replenishing of that collection of talented and wonderful people that make up the library staff. Colleen often said that the reputation of the law school being what it was, finding qualified people was easy. The challenge was finding qualified people who fit into that collegial family of professionals that she envisioned. She was proud of her success in this area, proud of finding such people who came together and developed an uncommon friendship and sense of camaraderie, and devoted themselves to serve the students and the faculty of the Maurer School of Law in a manner that Colleen knew was far better than good enough. In many ways, it was chance that brought Colleen to the law library. When we married and moved here, Colleen had never thought of becoming a librarian, much less going to law school. It was chance that brought her into the position whose demands so perfectly matched her diverse set of talents. But once in that position, chance was no longer a factor. Colleen used the opportunity to do what she did best, to build. Not just buildings and collections, but to build relationships, to build families, to build communities. The library and her position on the law faculty was a big part of her life, an important part of her life. And it is therefore fitting that by the dedication of this space, Colleen shall forever be a part of the library and the school that she loved and served so well.
So nicely. We have 2 ways that we're going to honor Colleen's memory. And the first is my pleasure in announcing the name ring of the Law Library reference room right there in Colleen's memory. The text of the plaque that hangs right on the wall, I can't actually see it, but it's just behind the door. And it reads, the Indiana University Maurer School of Law honors the memory of Colleens Kristl Pauwels, class of 1986, in recognition of her tireless service as Associate Professor and Director of the Law Library from 1978 until 2011 by naming this room the Colleens Kristl Pauwels Reference Room. April 29, 2014. I think that's a nice. I also feel privileged to announce the creation of the Colleens Pauwels Memorial Fund, a fund that will be used to support the collection development in the law library. I know that's something that she felt incredibly important about. If you're interested in donating to that form, gift forms are located at the registration desk up front. Thank you everybody for coming today. I thought this was a really important event. Terry, thank you so much. I thought those words, for somebody who didn't know her personally, I thought I knew her a lot better after I heard the words. Thank you for coming and for celebrating this important event. We really do appreciate it. I hope you'll stay, eat, drink, and enjoy everybody's company. Thank you.
Brian.